Much for your kind introduction, and thank you very much for allowing me the privilege to be here with you today. I feel truly honored to have the opportunity to speak before this distinguished audience of members of the FCCJ, a prestigious international correspondence club that has a history of more than 6 decades. Last year, the Japanese government set out important new national policies which could open a new direction for this country. In June, new growth strategy and fiscal management strategy were approved by the cabinet, and at the APEC CEO Summit 2010 that Kedanren hosted in November in conjunction with APEC economic leaders meeting held in Yokohama, Prime Minister Naoto Kan declared that Japan would promote economic partnership, including TPP, Trans-Pacific Partnership, and open the country to the world. But unfortunately, with the divided diet, where the upper house is controlled by the opposition parties, the discussion of the major national issues has not shown enough progress. I sincerely hope that the ruling party and the opposition parties will work closely together this year to move the discussions forward and take actions to solve the pressing issues facing Japan. Today I would like to talk about starting with an overview of current economic conditions, and then speak about what I consider Japan's 3 most pressing issues, namely growth strategy, comprehensive reform of taxes, public finance, and social securities, and the TPP and agriculture reform. And finally, I will talk about Kedanren's Sunrise report published last month, the private sector's action plan for revitalizing Japanese competitiveness. Now, let me begin with the overview of the current economy. It has been more than 2 years since the outbreak of the global financial crisis. Japan emerged from the depth of the crisis and continued to recover at a very modest pace until around last summer. But the recovery is beginning to slow down. In the quarter of July to September 2010, Japan's real GDPs grew at an annual rate of 4.5% from the previous quarter, but it is just considered a temporary rise. In the quarter of October to December 2010, the real GDP is expected to decline. A major factor behind this is that the exports are slowing down, showing the signs of weakness, as the yen has risen more than the business sector anticipated, and overseas economies are also slowing down. In addition, consumer spending is declining. Demand boosted by the extremely hot weather last summer already cooled down, and demand for green vehicles is on downturn after its sharp rise toward the end of September last year, when the government subsidies program ended. The performance of the corporate sector has been improving, but still lacks a real strength amid the strong yen and prolonged deflation. Under these circumstances, companies feel they have more production capacity and workforce than needed, and remain reluctant to increase investment and hiring. Sooner or later, the Japanese economy is expected to start recovering again, supported by the strong growth of overseas economies, particularly the emerging economies. But there are some uncertainties ahead. If the yen continues to be strong and Japan's business environment becomes worse, it might cause more Japanese companies to move their operations abroad and a number of investment and employment opportunities to go away. The U.S. economy is now in a positive mood because Christmas sales were stronger than expected and the Bush tax cuts were extended. But its outlook is not clear, given the unemployment staying high and many households saddled with heavy debts. The recovery of U.S. economy will likely remain slow. In Europe, financial markets continue to be unstable. While the EU has decided to bail out Ireland, there is a growing concern that debt crisis may spread to Portugal, Spain, and other debt-ridden nations in the region. China and other emerging countries are now at the risk of economic overheating and asset bubbles as a huge amount of capital is flowing in from advanced economies where the massive monetary easing has been implemented. In response, these emerging countries have begun to tighten monetary policies. We should keep a close watch on whether they can avoid a hard landing and achieve sustainable economic growth. Now, I would like to move on to talk about Japan's growth strategy. In order to restore its economy under these circumstances and achieve strong and sustainable growth, Japan needs to take all necessary policy measures to get out of the grip of deflation immediately and promote investment and employment in the country. Aiming to show a new way forward for Japan, Gedan developed its proposal, Growth Strategy 2010 in April last year. In the proposal, we have presented four perspectives we consider essential for charting a new growth strategy. First, we should strive to enhance the international competitiveness of Japanese industry and create new jobs in Japan. Second, we should look at the economy in a holistic manner, taking account of both the demand side and supply side, as well as both large corporations and small to medium companies. Third, we should undertake a comprehensive reform of tax, public finance, and social security. And finally, we should promote innovation in the public sector, eliminating unnecessary bureaucracy and streamlining administrative services by introducing novel approaches such as e-government. In June last year, the government announced its new growth strategy. We can welcome the new policy because it is essentially well in line with Gedanren's growth strategy. In order to develop an action plan for executing the growth strategy, Prime Minister Kan established a council of the realization of the new growth strategy in September, and I have been supporting the effort as a committee member. We will continue to provide all possible support and cooperation for the government to successfully carry out the new growth strategy. This past December, the government decided to reduce the effective corporate tax rate by 5%, as part of the tax reform for fiscal 2011. This is certainly a significant step forward in implementing a new growth strategy and important measure for revitalizing our economy. We in the business community welcome this decision and will increase our effort to further enhance our competitiveness and to expand investment and create new jobs in Japan. While carrying out the new growth strategy, Japan also needs to undertake a comprehensive reform of taxes, public finance, and social securities as soon as possible. For years, Gedan has been calling for building a small government in the belief that the major objective of the government economic policy should be to develop a free, fair, and open business environment. But in recent years, Japan's population has been aging fast with the declining birth rates, and its labor market, which used to be supported by lifetime employment and seniority system, has been changing dramatically. Along the way, Japan's social security system has developed some serious problems, shaking the public confidence in the future. Given these developments, Gedan set out a new policy in 2008 calling on the government to aim to build a medium-level burden, medium-level welfare state. Without positive long-term prospects, the economy would not become vibrant and new demand would not be created. Japan's social security system is a system of insurance which is supported by premiums paid by working generations. Under the present structure, however, the system is not sustainable. The number of working citizens supporting one senior citizen is currently around 3.23, but it is projected to decline to only around 1.3 in 40 years from now. In addition, as the population grew older, the total amount of Social Security benefits increased year after year. This will place a heavy burden on Japan's national finances, which could stifle investment in innovation that drives economic growth, as well as investment in the development of human resources that support innovation. Such a scenario must be avoided at all costs. To meet these challenges, Gedan has called for drastic tax reforms, which include making the consumption tax a source of funds for the social security system and raising its rate initially to 10% and later toward 20% or even higher step by step. A similar policy is presented in the cabinet decision announced on December 14th last year. I sincerely hope that the ruling party and the opposition parties will discuss this pressing issue constructively on a bipartisan basis, and they will develop a bold, comprehensive reform plan that will help to restore Japan's financial strength and rebuild the public confidence in the future of this country.